Okay, here they come. Good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. We're excited and thrilled to have you here with us today. And we called an audible this morning. So we want to welcome, we're thrilled to have one of the master coaches with Forward Coaching, Mr. Drew Lee. Drew, welcome. Appreciate you being here with us today.
Hey, I'm honored to be here. It's a great topic and it's a great time.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there like, well, who is this Drew and where is Debbie? So, uh, you know, without going into a lot of detail, Debbie had a minor surgery a couple weeks ago, and my understanding is they clipped something with her voice. Did I get that story right, Drew? Is that something? And we're resting Debbie's voice this week, so she can't be with us this week. Our thoughts and prayers are with her, but she's going to be fine, and we hope to have her back in a couple weeks when we do our next webinar. Drew, did I get
Well,
that story straight? Is that what you've heard as well?
yes, and if anybody knows Debbie, they know it's like they're going to have to chain her down and with like boulders, bricks, and chains and a cage, that Jaws couldn't break through just to keep her down. So she'll be back shortly.
Yeah, no question about it. Drew, while I'm pulling up so we will miss her, but thrilled to have you on. While I'm pulling up the slides, if you
Sure.
don't mind, can you give the audience just a quick 60-second kind of introduction?
Absolutely. Well, it's a privilege to be here, especially on a topic like creating urgency, because it's a well-needed time. I've been in the real estate industry. I was prior military. I've been in the real estate industry since 2003. Since 2003, we've obviously seen a lot of markets. I saw 2008. I saw 2020. We've seen government incentives in buying and selling. We've seen a lot of things over many years. It's hard to believe now it's been 21 plus years of this business and still going. So I think I've seen pictures before where it says, before real estate, after real estate. You'll notice there was a lot more brown hair in that picture taken a few years ago. I've had the privilege of building teams. I've had the privilege of running and managing brokerages. And I've also worked with Debbie for many years and some other amazing partners and coaching clients that we've done a lot of incredible things helping build massive businesses across the country.
Yeah, no question. Appreciate that introduction. We're thrilled to have you today. As discussed or as mentioned by Drew, the topic today is creating urgency. And guys, in this market, in this industry, we're always creating urgency, right? There's a lot of people on the fence. There's some people that think they want to kind of sell or buy, and they just aren't, they're uncertain. They need a professional. Sometimes they need a coach, Drew, to kind of help them understand where they need to go and what they need to do. And we want to talk about some of those things and how to create that urgency today.
Well, and that's really what we're going to do is we're
So
going to
without
discuss
further
some
ado, let's jump right.
masterminds and topics.
No question. So let's jump right into it, if you don't mind. Let's talk a little bit about those tactics of urgency, and we'll let you kind of kick this off, if you don't mind, Drew.
No, my pleasure. So things have changed. Fundamentally, let's be real. Things have changed over the last few years. The one thing that I've learned over now a 21-year career is that nothing lasts for long and nothing lasts forever. Real estate markets change, economies change, interest rates change, inventory changes. Truly, many years ago, I read this article, and it was in the Wall Street Journal, and it said, do you realize if we could transfer the sale of real estate as fast as we can transfer the sale of a stock? For example, I want to buy a share of Disney and sell it. If we could sell and buy at the same speed, that the real estate market would look very similar to the stock market, and it would go like this in a daily basis. It would change that rapidly. And since it takes a delayed period of time to list a home, get it on the market, move it forward, get it under contract, and then close it, a lot of that's what slows down the supply and demand and the changes as rapidly as they could occur. So time is a thing that creates urgency. Scarcity or abundance is something that changes or creates urgency. Social proof, for example, having testimonials and third-party stories of, okay, other people are doing it too. Now, I know you probably had, if you had a parent like mine, you're like, hey, well, if Billy jumped off a bridge, would you jump off too? You know what? In this case, Billy jumping off the bridge is a good thing, because what we want testimonials and third-party stories of people who are actually moving forward in the process. They're buying, they're selling, and they're making decisions that affect their family and moving forward. So social proof, testimonials, third-party stories are really important. Authority, example articles, and market predictions from really high-level sources and experts, as well as consequences of timing the market or missing opportunities.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit today, Drew, about, everyone out there trying to time the market, and none of us can really do it, right? Even if we've been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years, it's really hard to time the market. So we want to talk about some of those things as well.
Exactly.
So the topic today is urgency, and gosh, well, I think we're all born in some way. We've got a little procrastination in us. We're all human, right? And so when we talk about urgency, it's often used to overcome procrastination, but also indecisiveness or the tendency to delay making or purchasing a decision. And again, topic for today: how do we help our buyers and our sellers, because they have a lot of questions on their mind, right? It's, well, interest rates, are they going to keep going up? Are they going down? They want to know more about the market, and we can help with those things. At the same time, we can help them be decisive in the decisions that they make, right?
Exactly. And that urgency can be used to overcome that procrastination or that waiting or the indecision, letting them know, look, this is a safe choice. Look, it's never going to be a bad time to buy good real estate. It's never going to be a bad time to buy good real estate. So what's the point of delaying making a good purchase or a good decision?
Gosh, I like that a lot. I hope everybody writes that down. It's always, say it again, Drew.
It's never a
It's
bad
always a good
time
time.
to buy good real
Never
estate.
a bad time.
It's never a bad
Love
time to buy
that.
good real estate. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, as human beings, we all have to live somewhere, whether it's a rental home, the home you're currently in, the new home, the next home, the downsize, the upside, there is always a reason that's going to propel your next, call it your next move. And the goal is to create a genuine sense of urgency by conveying the value, benefits, and the time-sensitive nature of the offer or the opportunity. Why are people moving today? Let's think about that for a moment. What
Yeah,
would
no
cause someone to
question.
move?
And what are those things? What are those values? What are those benefits? And why should it be time sensitive, right?
Exactly.
Also, we want to talk about motivation, right? Dig into the homeowners, the buyer, the seller, their motivation, and discuss the cost and risk of waiting. I've got a couple brothers that sat on the fence and they waited way too long to get into the real estate game and to buy and to pick up investment properties and other things. And they look back at me and like, why did I wait? And I think when we look back in 10 years and 15 years, people are going to be saying the same thing. Why did we wait to buy that next property?
Well, and then rather than have 100 people say yes and just flood the chat box and yes, 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 is anybody in a market where properties are depreciating? If you're in a market where properties are depreciating and they haven't appreciated over the last year, values have gone down, put your information, say yes. Of everyone on the call, a few of you are saying yes. Now, is that true, or are you just simply seeing price adjustments? Because I would argue if you looked at land value, look at property values are still appreciating. They may be appreciating more slowly. I think in a lot of cases, we're overpricing based on where things were. And yet all that's really happened is appreciation has slowed and it's not keeping up with the same price. Look at what a property was listed or valued for a year ago. Look at what it would be valued for today. While it might feel like property values are going down, in reality, they're actually holding very steady with a slight appreciation in most parts of the country. So
Yeah, no
if property
question.
values are still fundamentally increasing and a home is becoming worth more, then what's the cost of risk or of waiting? Dig into the motivation. What is it that's propelling them to make a move right now? Why are people making a move? They're making a move because they have a life-altering event in most cases. Think about that. They're going through something. What would cause somebody to make a move when property values are at its highest, interest rates are at their highest if they've been in the last 30 years, and all of a sudden you got high prices, high interest rates? Why would I possibly make a move? Well, how long are you prepared to stay in your current situation? If we fast forward a year from now and nothing changes, what are you going to feel? Because if they're going through a life event, let's think about what are some life-altering events on the chat box. What are some life-altering events? Think about the clients that you've served in the last year. What has made them, pushed them, created urgency for them to make a move? Divorce, growing family. Thanks, Brittany. Death of a loved one. Absolutely. Jobs, new job, layoff job, pre-foreclosure. So they're in financial difficulty, getting married, health issues, the 8Ds, baby, divorce, marriage, death, downside. They're all correct answers. How many people have you worked with recently that do not have a life-altering event? We call those a luxury buyer or a luxury seller. I don't mean necessarily luxury properties. It's a luxury to them to make a move because interest rates and prices may not affect them. Those are the great people to work with, right? Or sometimes there's zero urgency of working with those individuals. So at least when you're working with somebody who has a life-altering event, they have something that is creating urgency for you as the real estate professional.
Drew, it's so good. When we talk about creating urgency, this is, in my opinion, this is the number one question. How long are you prepared to stay in your current situation? There's a lot of people in a painful, stressful situation, and we got to address that, right?
And if they're unclear and they say things like, well, as long as it takes, perfect. Let's put a timeline on that. If we fast forward a year down the road and nothing changes, what will that feel like? What will that do? How will that change things?
No question. And after that question, we want to kind of double click on it, right? Ask them what is important about their stated time frame. What's so important about 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or in the next 90 days, right? Is it an objection or is it a condition? This is interesting as well, something we want to kind of find out a little bit more detail about, right? Is it
Well, an
something you're just
objection
kind
is
of
a
throwing out
question,
there?
right?
Yeah,
Objection is a question. They're asking, okay, why should I or why shouldn't I? It's still a question. Should I work with you? Should I work with somebody else? That's a question. That's an objection. I don't know whether to stay or whether to go. That's a question. A condition is a statement of fact is not going to change. And a condition can work just as much for you as against you. A condition being, I lost my job. We are in a marital separation. We are in a new marriage. There's a lot of things that are now conditions that affect ultimately urgency.
so let's talk about the job.
The hardest job, I think, as a salesperson is to help them overcome their fear, procrastination to achieve the goal. And key this, that they have set for their real estate future. Your true goal is to help them arrive at a decision, which is where a true professional comes in and is absolutely irreplaceable in any market, especially this one. My goal is to help you make a decision. There's nothing worse than being left in limbo. And then, should I do this or should I do this? Should we move? Should we stay? Imagine how much more time you would save if you could get your clientele to reach a decision today. Whether it be move forward or whether it be to get off the fence and stay put, at least then you can reshift your focus onto somebody who is a right now buyer seller.
And that's our job. I know no one really signed up for it, but in real estate, that's what we're trying to do is help people arrive and come to those decisions and oftentimes on their own by asking the right questions, right?
Yes. It also
All
kind of
right.
feels good whether you think about it, it feels good to help someone reach a decision and find peace in their own world. I mean, we are the calm in their storm. All three factors must be present if you're going to help somebody make a move. Ready, willing, and able. And I want you to highlight ready, willing, and able. It's not what it used to be. Ready, willing, and able changes in every market all the time, forever, and always will. What makes a ready, willing, and able buyer today is different than what it was 2 years ago. Think about if you were selling homes in 2020, and I mean after we went from lockdown to crazy to everyone had money in their pocket, it seemed. Interest rates were at its lowest point. Affordability was at its highest all of a sudden. If you were selling at the end of 2020 and the first half of 2021, or pretty much for the most of the year, if not all, in 2021, was ready, willing, and able different than it is today? I'll help you. Say yes.
No question.
It was absolutely very different. Every market's going to change. When was the last time you reevaluated what is a ready buyer, what is a ready seller, willing and able?
Yeah, and as we talk about urgency, Drew, these are the three things we want to address: ready, willing, and able. And so let's talk about it. Ready.
This is
Right
not an
now,
easy market.
it's not an easy market, right? And we want to basically tell people that. Tell me, why are you so committed to buying in this difficult market now? We want to understand, are they ready?
Yes. Yes. Why are they so committed? Willingness relates to their sense of urgency. So are they ready? Yes, I'm ready. I got my letter of prequal. Are you willing? How many of you are finding yourselves working with somebody who says, I'm absolutely able, right? I'm able to do it. I'm ready to do it. And I'm willing to do it. Perfect. Then we may have to change your criteria. No, I'm not changing my criteria. Okay, then you may not be willing. Are you willing to go above asking price? Are you willing to forego X? What are you willing to do? So what is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your willingness to do what it takes to buy or to sell? Are you willing to offer concessions? Are you willing to do a buy down in some cases if you're a seller? What is your willingness related to their sense of urgency?
And more importantly, are they able? Because a lot of times we say we're willing and we're ready, but are people able? And able relates to their financial capacity. Can they qualify for the loan? Can they get pre-qualified? Are they
Yes.
looking in the right market and in the right at the right homes? Right.
And it's not, none of these ready, willing, able are a yes or a no. There is a spectrum of 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 on urgency on ready, willing, and ableness scale. If you had a scale and you said 0 to 10 and you can't use 7, what is your level of, whether it's ability, willingness, or readiness, and you rated them as an individual? Because they have a scale, but you also have a scale. And if they say, all right, well, I'm able, got the financial wherewithal, I'm ready to do it, ready to make a move, and I'm willing. But I've got to get this price, because if I can't get this price and I can't get the next home, are you willing to have a mortgage? I don't really want to have a mortgage, or I don't want to pay, or that's a little bit higher than I want to pay. In my mind, as a professional, my willingness scale working with that buyer, I'm decreasing it a little bit on the slide. They may be able, but they may only be able if I can get them this price, for example, in order for them to move forward and get their needs met, or what they're essentially wanting, not necessarily what they're able to get. Ready, willing, and able
And
changes.
I was just going to say, Drew, and sometimes they're able at 6 or 6.5%, but if things fluctuate to 7.5%, how able are they now in some of those price conditions as well, right?
This is also a great conversation to have with sellers that are being a little challenging at the moment, and they're wanting to hold to a price they may have gotten 6 months ago or even last year. And now it's like, well, my neighbor's home just sold for that 3 months ago, or I've got the nicest nails in that you can't see in the walls. And that even though they're painted over, I use 2x6s, whereas my neighbors use 2x4s. We've had those conversations, right? Well, that's true. And can I explain a little bit of what's happened? The readiness, able, and the willingness of buyers has changed, which affects your sale. It affects your value, your pricing strategy, so it can get you the most amount of money. Because we've got to do the math. Help your prospects see the real dollars and cents of what it would take to achieve their real estate goals, including selling, including buying. Of sellers may have to do more now to create a higher level of affordability for their buyers. Well, why would I need to do that? Because every time interest rates have gone up and values have gone up, the amount of buyers in your available pool has gone down. And the last time I checked, every single thing that drives our market is still driven on 2 words: supply and demand. We have had an outrageous, absurd, unusual moment in history where we have had such a higher demand than we have a supply. And affordability is a big thing that will change that dynamic over time. Right now, in many markets, your buyers have more choices than they've had in the last 4 years. And they're becoming aware of new house on the market. Well, let's see what it does. Whereas it wasn't much, 6 months to a year ago, I had to get out there and look at that house by noon today, be prepared to write an offer and submit it this afternoon, or it was gone. Now I can wait. What is this? My pop-up just said this thing has a price adjustment. They've reduced. That's changing things in a very fast pace. Just be aware of it. You've got to partner with a great lender. So a great lender will let you know, hey, as things change, affordability changes, interest rates change, as well as payments and how they fluctuate. Everything that could change a buyer's ready, willing, and able ability could increase urgency for you, helping them with their purchase.
Connie mentioned still low inventory in Silicon Valley, and that's true throughout the country. We're seeing still very, very low inventory, but we're also seeing in many markets a little uptick in inventory. And so be watching for that in your areas.
And we're just, I
All
think
right.
for one thing that happens with buyers and sellers, and especially with the real estate professional, when something is one way for a long period of time, it becomes normal. We think it's normal. We thought 3% and 4% interest rates were normal because they were that way for as long as they were. On a historical lens, those were still historically crazy in a very short window of time, as low as they were. Prices and those things, they do fluctuate. So we must remind them that a decline in rates will spark an even greater demand, thus driving prices. I saw an article from one of the sharks, Barbara Corcoran. She said that people in the real estate business, as well as the real estate buying and selling pool, have to understand that if interest rates do have a dramatic drop, what that could do to pricing.
And when we talk about creating urgency, this is one of my favorites, right? We've got to remind our consumers, both the buyer and the seller, hey, when rates drop, and we think they will next year, or even maybe in Q4 of this year, there will be a stronger demand. There will be possibly a price increase rather than a reduction. And so we don't know which way that's going to go, but that's something we have to remind all of our people.
And if you can get more for your home, wonderful. And you're also going to have to pay more.
Yep. Yep. So I know some people love this term. I know some people actually hate this term.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a fan, to be honest, and it's marry the home, date the rate, and marry the home, right? And if you can find a home that you're interested in, that you can live with, that you can fix up, you're right. Like it might be time to get married. It's time to kind of look at those homes and get serious about them. And later, there's certainly opportunities. I mean, refining a home right now couldn't be easier, right? And so there's opportunities for us in every market and even today.
I think the only thing we've got to be a little maybe cautious of is that nobody has a crystal ball, which is why we bring them back to their motivation, their urgency, what is pushing them logically and emotionally to make this purchase, because we have no idea when. There are forecasts that says, yes, rates should come down, and eventually, there are expectations that they will. More importantly, is this the right house for you? And should things change and affordability becomes better for you, great. Then you, at that point in time, you could refinance.
Love the thought that there's no crystal ball. I mean, the Fed, they teased us, right? They told us 6 drops this year. Now they
Yes.
said just this last week, well, maybe 1 is where they're
Yes.
at. And so it's a
Yes.
fluid market and constantly changing.
And I think if you look at the data, we've just got to be aware of the data at this time actually says, you know what? We want them to drop as much as every home buyer out there. And a lot of the evidence just says, well, what if they don't? Well, that's why exactly you're going to marry the home. Whether you date the rate or not, you're going to marry the home. And my job is to find you the best home. Remind first-time buyers this is a stepping stone to their future dream home. What do they want in a home? What do they need in a home? Perfect. Then that is their perfect home for right now.
And then we
Remind
also want to remind the buyers,
Go
right?
ahead.
We want to remind anyone buying a home, it's not only about appreciation, but creating wealth. And they got to get in the game. Renting is not creating any wealth for them. They've got to get off of the sideline, and we want them in the game. We want them generating and creating wealth. And real estate's the best way to do that. We all know that. We're in this game.
Exactly. Encourage them to reduce their search criteria and be open to the ugly ducklings in the emerging market. Again, it's about getting in and getting your needs met. What are the absolute must-have deal breakers? And even those have some flexibility if they're truly willing to do whatever it takes to make a move.
we already talked about this, but no one can time the market. Nobody has that crystal ball, Drew. You mentioned that earlier. The bottom line is if they want to buy or sell and can afford to hold the property potentially for 7 years, that's kind of our sweet spot,
Yes.
then they'll be fine. And that's really what we're here to kind of help and advise is to create urgency. But more importantly, let's look at that 7 year plan for each of our buyers and our sellers and see where they're at in their personal life.
Exactly, exactly. Timing the market doesn't work for anyone. There is a safe space that says, so long as you avoid peaks and valleys, you're fine. It's a very safe space to purchase. And I'd say it again, it's never a bad time to buy good real estate.
So good.
You have more ability to spark action than you realize just by helping them tap into what's driving this decision, whether it be a purchase or a sale.
All right, Drew. So we promised our people 30 minutes or less. We really appreciate everybody being here. Guys, the name of the game right now is creating urgency. There's a lot of people on the fence, a lot of people scared, worried, and a lot of people just sometimes uber conservative. Sometimes they need to be a little bit more conservative. We can help them kind of figure out where they are by addressing their needs and finding these things out. Drew, I want to thank you for the time. I'd also encourage everybody here to scan this QR code. There's a beautiful and just an amazing opportunity to work with forward coaching with both Debbie and Drew and their team. Opportunities to continue to grow your business and what you're doing. We're thrilled to have you, Drew. Really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts before we end today?
I'm sure everyone on this call has heard at some point in time, logic makes people think, emotions make them act. You can share the data. Debbie has a saying that I love, and it's called bring the data, not the drama. Give them the data, and then make sure we tap into their emotions. So we take the logic of what's happening, the emotions of what they need and why they need it, and you combine the two, and you'll create urgency for your people.
Drew, really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for pulling out Audible with us and being with us. We'll look forward to Debbie next time. Really appreciate everybody being on there. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.